What more can be said about the Amazing Digital Circus that hasn't already been said? Well, I haven't said anything about it on this channel yet outside of a tertiary mentioned in one video. So there's a first time for everything, I guess. There's a lot to admire about the Amazing Digital Circus. From the animation, the music, the art direction, the characters, and even the interesting and compelling take on existentialism through the perspective of being trapped inside of a video game. From the teasers and the pilot episode, I was already on board with this concept for a series, but the recently released second episode ended up exceeding my expectations on how the series would potentially play out. And it all comes back to two specific scenes and their thematic undertones that I want to highlight. For some context, the Amazing Digital Circus, as of right now, is mostly told through the perspective of Pomni. Yeah, there are times when other characters get some screen time, but it's very clear that as of now, Pomni is the main focus of the show. She's very clearly meant to be a surrogate for the audience to be introduced to this digital world, which is pretty typical for these isekai type of stories. But one little aspect that this show tools around with is how the characters are reacting and coping with this reality. Ragatha tends to act overly motherly and handholdy, to the point of pure annoyance from characters like Jax and even Pomni.
Look, Pomni, we're already friends with the princess.
I'm not a child, you don't have to hype me up.
King Er, being here the longest, has fully embraced his title of being a metaphorical king, and moves between states of being there and just going off into his own little universe. Zubul has stopped giving a damn, to the point of not even really engaging with Kane's antics. Jax is a complete sociopathic douchebag that puts others in danger for the sake of his own enjoyment, and so on and so forth. But then there is Pomni, who's essentially going through the 5 stages of grief, minus the bargaining stage, but I want to focus on 2 of those stages, depression and acceptance. Throughout the pilot, we see Pomni go through the emotional ringer, going from pure denial to fear to dread to eventually even having a slight mental breakdown. By the end of it all, when it's clear that there's no way out of this nightmare, we see a defeated Pomni come to the brutal realization that this is her new home. Throughout the next episode, and even a little in the merch video, we see Pomni start to develop a personality of aloofness and apathy, clearly sending out people like Ragatha, despite her clearly caring for her well-being. She even starts to show signs of annoyance with people like Kane, as he clearly just wants to be left alone. But beneath all that is a true fear. And in the beginning of episode 2, we see that fear fully manifest. The fear of being seen as nothing more than a nobody. Another person waiting to be abstracted, to be locked away, forgotten, and left alone. And all of this comes to a head during the team's escapades in the Candy Kingdom, when Pomni and the enemy alligators no-clip out of bounds, and we are introduced to one of the more somber and tense scenes in the episode. Gummigoo, while wandering out of bounds, finds out the truth about his world, that it is nothing more than a lie. Nothing but a series of lines of code and programming routines made by some AI. A pawn in a make-believe game that, as he says himself,
I don't just want to leave you here.
Why not? I don't matter in the slightest. I'm nothing. My life, my memories, my friends. It's all fake. What does it matter? What do we have when you people leave? We're just obstacles, created to be defeated and forgotten.
He is devastated by this revelation, and like Pomni before him, he becomes distant, defeated, and empty. A feeling that Pomni knows all too well, and she won't let anyone go through that same kind of hell. So what does she do? She reaches out to build a connection, but not just any connection, a human connection, a connection from someone who is real.
Hey, you okay?
No.
You want to talk about it?
What is there to talk about?
This may seem weird, but I think I know the feeling. Feeling like you're nothing is kind of normal. I mean, people even feel like that in the world I came from. The circus, the place I'm from? Well, I'm originally from somewhere else. But if it has to be my home, maybe it can be yours too. Maybe you could be somebody real there.
Why are you trying to cheer me up? How does this benefit you at all?
guess I just don't want you to feel like you're nothing. I don't want anybody to feel like that.
But I'm not even a real person. Would I even belong?
I'm sure you wouldn't belong any less than me. And I could use a friend.
A friend?
I love the way Digital Circus recontextualizes game mechanics and concepts into narrative and emotional material. The idea of an NPC or enemy player realizing they are in a video game is nothing new in media, especially recently, but I just love how the Amazing Digital Circus executes on it. I have a soft spot for video game inspired media, but that's a story for another day, and these guys need to get going. And after a nice little Chekhov's gun, we get, well, I'll let it speak for itself.
I just realized this might be a little violent.
This scene is just beautiful. For a few reasons. Pomni's face of reassurance to Gummy, the beautiful background design, and especially the music. Gooseworks and Evan Alderte have already proven themselves to be excellent composers, but this episode really does show off their dynamic range and flexibility. Somebody Real is a very special track. Not only is the title very poignant in describing the scene and the emotion within it, but the first minute and 25 seconds of the track is very subdued, but elegant, underscoring the conversation perfectly. But when it's time for our characters to launch off into the void, is where the track goes from elegant to magnificent. A beautiful use of a theremin that almost sounds like a singing angel as they get closer to the light, the backing synth arpeggios, and the strings. What else can I say? But remember when I said this episode had two scenes that really stuck out to me?
Welcome back, my little hard-shelled hamburgers!
So this is the circus, huh? I gotta get used to this.
Oh, looks like one of these guys made it through!
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
I know you guys love your NPCs, but if I start losing track of who's a human and who's an NPC, who knows what could happen?
Now I've seen some people criticize this scene for being too obvious. Like we knew Gummy was not going to be a new member of the circus. But to be honest, I thought he was going to survive. Just throwing that out there. But to comment on this scene a little bit more, I like to think this scene sort of reinforces Pomni's fear about nothing in this digital hellscape mattering. She can try to escape, both physically and even emotionally, but she'll always be back at square one. Or at least, that's what she thinks in this moment. But I like the idea of this scene being bookended by Kaufmo's funeral, because it feels necessary. As during the funeral session, we see these characters pour their hearts out over how much he meant to them. Even if we haven't seen much of him, we can see just in their emotions how much he impacted their lives. And as Pomni stares on, in a complete inverse of the pilot, both in terms of emotion and background score, she comes to a realization that she isn't alone. That these avatars aren't LARPing. They are people. Humans. Also trapped within this world going through the same struggles she's been going through. And that she does belong. And she finally begins to accept that this is her new home. But not out of fear or emotional defeat, but out of understanding and acceptance. And I'll admit, this scene on the second viewing actually left me misty-eyed. What I love about this scene is that it can be taken in a few different ways, both literally and allegorically. The biggest one to me is that Pomni's struggles can be viewed through the lens of an individual struggling with mental health. One who has detached themselves from everyone around them and struggles with dark thoughts, and risks sinking themselves further into the black pit of despair, where they feel that they can disappear off the face of the earth and no one will notice. But in reality, there is at least someone that cares about your well-being, and through reaching out, building connections, It's possible to weather the storm and build a new path for yourself. I don't remember where I heard or saw this, but it was someone talking about how they were worried that the Amazing Digital Circus was going to be a cynical series, and that they were happy when this new episode proved them wrong. Now, I never thought the series was going to be overall cynical, but I was wondering what the emotional core of the series was going to be. And with this episode, I think I can wager what it's going to be. Finding humanity, connection, kindness, and love, even in the darkest of hours. And despite everything this world is going to throw at you, it's important that you don't leave behind what makes you human, what makes you real. This episode exceeded my expectations, and I can't wait to see what future episodes have in store for us.